In the last episode, we talked about how the Holy Empire Rubrios, the origin of the Western Holy Church, was actually a haven for vampires. The divine Luminous was, in fact, the demon lord of the vampires. As the captain of the Holy Knights, Hinata Sakaguchi had also joined Luminous' army. So, what interesting events is to unfold after Luminous' return from the Walpurgis banquet? In this video, we will discuss Hinata's awakening, as well as the major changes that is occurring within the Western Holy Church. Let's get started. The setting was the Inner Sanctum. The Inner Sanctum is the most sacred place in the Holy Empire of Rubrios, located on Spirit Hill. It held a supremacy greater than the Hall of the Pope and was considered the spiritual epicenter of the entire empire. As soon as Hinata sat down, Demon Lord Luminous calmly began telling Hinata about what had happened at the Walpurgis banquet. However, when the conversation turned to being unmasked by the storm dragon Veldora, a rare anger flashed across her beautiful face. The news of the death of her confidant Roy Valentine added to her displeasure. Feeling the immense pressure, Hinata started to comfort Luminous, saying she would take care of the evil dragon Veldora herself. However, Luminous quickly denied this, saying,
"Listen, Hinata. He is the embodiment of natural energy. If it were just a raging storm, you could control it with magic. But unlike natural phenomena, that evil dragon has a will of his own. Your sword and magic will not work against him. Besides, he could go on a rampage if you provoked him, sending shockwaves and powerful magic to shatter the earth. He is a disaster that you can't overcome."
Luminous spoke with genuine awe. Another vampire, Louis Valentine, turned pale, recalling past experiences. 2,000 years ago, the storm dragon had attacked their country. Despite the efforts of many powerful vampires, they were unable to halt the mad storm dragon. Their city, a crystallization of vampire technology and knowledge, had turned into ruins overnight. The beautiful night palace of Rose was also destroyed. Luminous comforted Louis, saying,
"Stop thinking about it, Louis. That city was the crystallization of the wisdom and technologies of the vampiric race. Now only the memory of it lingers. There is no use in being nostalgic over something that no longer exists."
Seeing their reactions, Hinata finally realized how dangerous Veldora was and gave up the idea of attacking the storm dragon. However, the plan she had made when she first met Rimuru now felt like a fishbone stuck in her throat. She had blindly believed the words of the Eastern merchants, rashly judged Rimuru as an evil existence, and even attempted to assassinate him on their first encounter. This led to all the subsequent events.
It's so annoying. It's as if someone saw through our intentions and spread information according to the situation. Could there be a mole?
Hinata started to suspect, but she didn't dwell on it much. There were more important matters to discuss right now, specifically the Western Holy Church's future stance towards the new demon lord, Remuru. On this point, Luminous asserted they should not antagonize him, but rather observe and wait. Although this could lead to the doctrine of the Western Holy Church, that monsters are the common enemies of mankind, being fundamentally subverted and the followers' faith being shattered. But there was no other way given the current circumstances. Luminous sighed deeply. Hinata also felt somewhat troubled, knowing that all of this was due to her own stubbornness.
"I will handle it properly,"
she said, leaving the room. Working overtime and foregoing sleep, Hinata had been doing her utmost to prepare for the defense against Veldora. She had been dispatching members of the Imperial Guards all over the world to gather intelligence. The monthly conference between the two wings serving the Pope, the Holy Knight Order led by Hinata, and the Imperial Knights directly under the Pope began. The top-tier members of the Western Holy Church were participating in the meeting. In addition to Hinata, the strongest knight, there were representatives from 6 other knightly orders. They were Renard Jester, the noble son of light, Arnaud Bauman, the Arnaud of sky, Bacchus of earth, Lightus of water, Guard of fire, Fritz of wind. Also, from the Imperial Knights, there were Sari of blue sky, Grigori of giant boulder and Glenda Atli of raging sea. These 9 people had transcended the concept of humanity. They were beings in contrast to the demon lords, known as the saints. The saints, having gone through harsh training and the passing of time, had had the shackles of their physical bodies lifted. They had begun transforming into semi-spiritual beings. As a result, not only had their lifespan significantly increased, but the energy they wielded was also incomparable to ordinary humans. They were thus referred to as the guardians of humanity. However, even with their extraordinary power, their strength, when compared to that of monsters, merely reached the level of a demon lord seed. The attendees waited in silence for Hinata's arrival, the knights standing behind their respective captains. The heavy door opened, Hinata entered, and the conference officially began. Sari, not content with Hinata's leading position, started the meeting with a sarcastic remark about the current situation being Hinata's doing. This caused an uproar between Hinata's supporters and opponents. However, Hinata responded with a sigh of boredom, stressing that this was not the time for infighting and anyone could take her position if they possessed the strength. Her statement, filled with a tinge of irritated killing intent, immediately silenced the room. The meeting proceeded to the main agenda. The 10 great saints each began to report the intelligence they had collected regarding the peaceful state of the Jura forest and the impending civil unrest in the kingdom of Falmouth. All pointed towards a single answer: Rimuru, the new demon lord, was behind everything. Hinata started to question Glenda, who was in charge of the commercial city, about the eastern merchants. Glenda, a mercenary in the underworld and a devoted follower of the Church of Luminous on the surface, had secretly met with the eastern merchants and even some members of the council. She decided to hide the information from Hinata for her own gain. Hinata sighed internally while observing Glenda's actions. Hinata had never truly valued her comrades. In her suspicion of an internal traitor, Glenda's behavior was a significant concern. Hinata announced Luminous Divine Decree to the attendees, forbidding anyone to lay a hand on Demon Lord Remuru, the one who tamed the storm dragon Veldora. Her strong declaration left everyone in shock, as it contradicted the church's teachings and signified a compromise with monsters. Even in the face of protests, Hinata remained unfazed and forbade anyone else from intervening. She decided to go to Tempest herself to clear things up with Rimuru. At this moment, there was a knock on the door. Rahiam, the Archbishop of the Kingdom of Falmouth, arrived at the meeting, followed unexpectedly by 3 of the clerics of the 7 luminaries. The clerics, known for fostering heroes and becoming legends themselves, were seldom seen within the Western Holy Church. Hinata didn't favor these people. They had forsaken their duty of overseeing the organization and fostering their subordinates out of fear of being surpassed. They were so corrupted that they'd abandoned their duty to nurture the next generation and only focused on self-preservation. Once everyone was seated, Rahiam started his report. He shared everything about the rise of the new demon lord Rimuru and his battle prowess, which single-handedly annihilated 20,000 soldiers. An oppressive silence filled the room as the attendees recalled the existence that was fundamentally different from a demon lord seed and an awakened demon lord.
So, Demon Lord Remuru seems to have awakened.
Hinata whispered, her words slicing through the taboo, igniting the flame in those who couldn't stand the silence. The holy knights voiced their thoughts, proposing to eliminate Rimuru before they couldn't handle him. However, Hinata quieted them with the absolute nature of the divine decree, deciding to end the meeting. However, the 7 luminaries who had been watching the situation stopped Hinata and reminded Rahiam to relay Rimuru's words. Pressed by their insistence, Rahiam presented Hinata with the crystal ball Rimuru originally used to express goodwill. A beautiful young girl appeared in the crystal ball, her face emotionless but exuding an aura of dominance. Then, Rimuru's voice came from the image.
A one-on-one duel, I'll be your opponent.
The short but impactful message sent Hinata into a tense silence. Alright, that was the end of this episode. If you liked this video, please give it a like and share it. In the next episode, we will continue with the movements of the Western Holy Church. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.